Yo, what's up guys? So this is basically a quick intro before we get into the video. So habits, this is what you think is gonna happen. You think you're gonna get linear results, but no. What you're actually gonna get is what I'm about to draw. So what you're actually gonna get is basically a period of time where you're putting in a lot of the work and you're not seeing any return. And while this is discouraging, keep in mind habits need to compound in order to take their effect. So this area that I'm about to circle right here, that is where you're putting in effort and you're not seeing any results. But all hope is not lost. You're going to see this point that I draw called the threshold. That is when your results start to compound and you start to see actual visible benefits. Yo, what's up guys? Kenny back with another video. This is a video of what I've learned from Atomic Habits by James Clear. So I'm assuming since you clicked on the video, you're probably trying to create some sort of a good habit, or maybe getting rid of some bad ones. You're probably on some sort of self-improvement journey of some kind, and you're getting one step closer to your future self. James Clear has become this book before he wrote this book, and that's according to him. So this book is tried and true. It's from his learned experiences. I'm also trying these laws laid out in this book. And I suggest you guys perhaps consider trying to do the same and see if it works for you. And also, before we get started, I do highly recommend that you guys go and actually read this book for yourself, but I hope you enjoy the video. Without any hesitation, let's get right into it. So habits are formed based off of 4 steps. The first one is the cue. This is the thing that triggers the habit. Number 2, craving. This is the desire to do the habit. Number 3 is the response. And this is the actual action or the actual decision that's going to become a habit after repeated action. It's not a habit unless it's repeated many times. Number 4 is the reward. So this can be some sort of satisfaction, some sort of thing that you get for doing the habit, maybe a change in your internal state, which is usually what we're looking for. And so you're probably asking yourself, so how do you actually form a habit? So there's 4 laws of behavioral change mentioned by James Clear that we're going to go through, and they all kind of link directly back into the 4 steps of how a habit is formed. So with the cue, we're going to have the first behavioral change, and that is to make it obvious. Number 2, craving. We're going to want to make this attractive. Number 3, the response. We're going to want to make it easy. And number 4, the reward. We're going to want to make it satisfying. Now, I love this in the sense that it's so simple. If you want to figure out how to erase a bad habit, all you have to do is basically invert these laws. So the cue, inverting, making it obvious, you want to make it invisible. Craving, you want to make it unattractive. Response, you want to make it difficult. And the reward, you want to make it unsatisfying. All right, so let's go into part 1. So this is all about the cue. So the big takeaway here is you really want to make the cue very obvious to your brain. And a great way to do this is to design your environment for success. So you want to make it so that your environment has that habit, that cue, very readily visible. So we have a lot of sensory information, a lot of sensory receptors in our body, guys. And most of those sensory receptors are actually dedicated to our vision, especially men. We're very visual, just as humans. It's time to take good advantage of that. Here's some examples. If you want to floss more, and I know we could all fall into this category, instead of having the floss tucked away in a drawer, have the floss right next to the sink. It being next to the sink is going to make it very accessible, so it's much easier for you to floss than to have to open up the drawer. Another example, if you want to start eating healthier, well, have the healthier food at the front of the fridge, have the fruits out on the counter instead of being in the fridge, or instead of being at the back of the fridge. So just make things very, very easy in your environment, less of a hurdle, and not even just a hurdle, because we'll get into that more as the actual response, but the cue is going to be very obvious. It's going to be something that you can see right away when you walk into a room. Another way you can do this, guys, is you can design a room for a certain task. So this is going to be limited though, so if you don't have a lot of space, you can do another option, which I'll get into. So you can have your bedroom just for sleeping. You can have your office room just for doing work. You can have the couch just for entertainment. That way your brain knows that when it sees these rooms, it knows exactly what to do, and it almost preps you into the habitual pattern of getting into that zone for work or for sleeping, etc. What you can do if you have limited space, this would honestly be, people living in apartments and stuff like that, or if you share a lot of space, you have roommates. What you can do is you can dedicate your bed just for sleeping. You can dedicate the chair that you typically have beside your bed just for doing work. Then you can have the couch just for entertainment, that's when you use your phone to check social media. Also, another thing about cues is you want to be intentional. So you don't want to just say, throw it up into the air, I want to be healthier, I want to exercise more. Actually have a plan. Say you're going to exercise at a certain time in a certain location. So let's say you work 9 to 5, you're going to exercise at 5 p.m., like right after work, at the gym, at the local gym, or in your basement, whatever. I want to eat 3 meals, 2 snacks, no sugar Monday to Friday. I want to have 1 salad per day. Let's go over one more. You can also habit stack. So this is kind of like when you already have a habit and you add on a habit that you want to do to that habit. So let's say you always get up and you brew a cup of coffee. Now what you could do is while that coffee is being brewed, you could, instead of watching TV, you could use that time to read a book. So you say you want to read more, you stack that time when you're brewing your coffee with your reading a little bit. Now you probably want to read a little bit more, so maybe you can stack reading with another habit, and then as you begin to read more and more, it becomes something that you like to do, and therefore you don't really need to do it at a specific time of the day with a specific habit. You can actually just pick up a book and start reading. Let's jump into part 2. So this is the actual craving. So this is the desire to want to do the action to make it a habit. So you got to make this thing attractive. Think about it. We live in a world where things are so highly modified and edited. Pictures are edited, commercials and stuff like that, best lighting, photoshopping. Food is so highly genetically modified to be a perfect shape, to be like junk food is so addictive because it properly stimulates, scientists, you got all these guys studying exactly how to, stimulate the most taste buds. So before we continue, just kind of want to lay something out. So based on just humans being around for so long, a lot of the conditions that we experience, a lot of the desires that we want are actually very similar. So some of you might be addicted to, social media, but really what you're addicted to is the feeling of having connection. Some of you guys swipe on Tinder a little bit too much. What you're craving and what you're really desiring is just intimacy and a connection and a relationship, right? Some of you are addicted to junk food, but really what you're feeling is, you're feeling stressed, and that's the way that you're kind of coping with it. So basically what's happening is it has to be about your perspective. So you have to keep in mind that you're looking for a change in internal state. So once you figure out, your brain figures out that this action perceives a certain change in internal state based on your perspective, a habit is something that's repeated often. So once it's committed once, and then you get a certain result, your brain says, oh, aha, I feel this way when I do this. So therefore, whenever I get this urge to fill this void, whatever void it is, then you'll do that action again because your brain already predicts what's gonna happen. You're gonna get relief from that issue. And that's how habits are formed. So it's all about perspective. So a great way to change this is, first of all, like I was saying, just be aware of the fact that you're not really addicted to certain things. You're addicted to these very natural human things that we've always craved. We've always craved connection, love. We've always craved getting rid of stress. It's just our perspective on what things relieve that stress for us. And then we just keep going back to them because we get that change in an internal state. So a great way to do this, honestly, guys, is be a little bit more grateful, honestly. Like you could do gratitude journaling, and instead of saying like, oh, I have to meal prep, I have to do my cardio, I have to read more, say I get to. It's like an opportunity. It's not like a must. When in reality, you must do certain things to get better and to achieve your goals. But you need to look at it as like you have the opportunity to get better. You're in a situation where you can control that you want to improve your life, and you have the availability, you have the resources to be able to get better. And that's a privilege. So let's talk quickly about the dopamine system. So this is really interesting. So when you first do a habit, right? Like we talked about, it's not a habit until it's repeated and until it becomes automated. So for it to become automated, your brain has to predict the feeling, the outcome that you're gonna get. So when you do it the first time, you get a certain reward, your brain characterizes that. So the next time you see that cue, you either get a desire or not a desire to do that habit again, because your brain already predicts what's gonna happen after you do it. So if you ate junk food and it tastes really good, the next time you see that specific type of junk food, your brain knows you feel really good eating it, so you're gonna have a craving for it. Now the interesting thing is, and this really, really hits me hard, because when I'm dieting and I really, really wanna have a binge or really, really craving some cake, I always find, and I don't know about you guys, but I find the thought of having the cake and going out and getting it is like so exciting, and like I can't wait. Like I'm just, you know, my mouth's watering, I'm going crazy thinking about having the cake, and it's like, oh, I can't wait to have it. Like sometimes I'll wait like for my cheat meal after X amount of weeks, whatever amount of weeks, before I can have my big cheat. And then when I actually have the cake, it's like it tastes good, but it's almost like it doesn't taste as good as I expected. I don't know if any of you get that feeling, but I'm sure you have. And so what this is originally when you first have the thing, say like the first time I have a cake that I really like, I get this huge hit of dopamine. So dopamine is the hormone that you get for, they call it the pleasure hormone, but it's actually not just pleasure, it's also a desire hormone. So dopamine, and the release of dopamine gives us pleasure, but it also gives us the desire to go after something. So once your brain knows that you like that cake, you actually get a higher dopamine spike in the anticipation of getting the cake than you do once you get the cake again. So now your brain really loves the idea of it. Now this is very interesting, and it's shown scientifically, which is very, very funny because it you know, it really resonates with me. Now, what's the whole point of this? Now, if you change your perspective, you now associate this new good habit with creating your future self, and you know that every time you do it, you're gonna build discipline. Let's say you're on a diet, or let's say you want to read more, let's say you want to practice, be more gracious to others, and give compliments to people. You know that every time you do it, you're going to get that feeling of accomplishment because you're becoming who you want to be in the future. So now, every time you have the opportunity to do it, your brain is going to release a bunch of dopamine, more than you would get if you actually did the task. So now you're going to be motivated to basically do the process that it takes to get to the outcome. Because remember, the habits, I don't think I said this in the beginning, but the very important thing that I learned from this book is basically the habits will be the systems that get us to where we want to be. So imagine it now. Instead of just getting joy when you get the result and you said, okay, well, I finally read a couple pages, now I feel happy. Now you get happy thinking when you get free time to read. Now you get happy when you think, oh, you get to go to the gym, not just when you're enjoying your time actually exercising. So now you're basically taking joy in building yourself up, not just enjoying the outcome. So now this is exactly where you want to be. And this is like amazing. You're going to enjoy the process, not just the outcome. All right, part 3, the response. Now this part, the key with this is you want to emphasize showing up, and you want to keep things simple. You don't want to make it too difficult to start. And so now the thing is, the more you do something, the better you become at it, and the more you can do it. Let's take, for example, exercise. The first time you exercise, you don't want to do too long of an exercise. You don't want to go too heavy. You don't want to do too much. But over time, you'll start to like it more. You'll start to get stronger. So it becomes easier to not only show up, but also to do a little bit more. So the key with the response is make your actions small. Emphasize small baby steps and just showing up. Because eventually you're gonna grow. You're gonna start to like the thing more that you're doing. You're gonna start to read more pages when you sit down to read. And even if it's a day where you can't do as much, I still encourage you guys, showing up is such a massive thing. It really allows you to continue the compounding effect of the habits. Of course, if you really can't do it that day, you're not gonna lose all of your results. That's a myth to think that all the progress will just go away after missing a couple of days of exercising or eating healthy. But just always keep in mind, showing up, if you say, hey, I want to work out for an hour, my workouts are an hour, but you only have 20 to 30 minutes that day to work out, 20 to 30 minutes is better than nothing. So if you were to show up, say 2 days that you could have skipped because you couldn't have made an hour, those 2 days of 20 minutes just gave you a 40-minute workout. That over time, guys, over the course of months, years, is going to add up quite significantly. One last section in this part, habits are kind of like a gateway. So there's very pivotal, decisive moments where you need to make a decision, and these moments tend to be very habitual. So let's say you get home from work, then the first thing you do is you put on your running shoes. Now you're gonna spend the next, say, hour to 2 hours working out, and then after that, you're gonna get to chill, right? But let's say you get home and you don't immediately change into your workout shoes, or like soon, then you'll spend the entire night just chilling. And I know you guys are probably thinking at this point, how long does it take for a habit to occur? Don't think of it as time passing, but think of it as how many times do I need to do the habit? So think more frequency rather than just time passing. The more that you do it, the more automated it becomes, and the more it becomes subconscious. Your brain doesn't even think about it, and that's truly what a habit is. All right, guys, part 4, so the reward. So this, you gotta make it satisfying. Understand that as a human race, we love instant gratification, but you have to understand that instant gratification or instant rewards, easy decisions now create a harder future later. But hard decisions now create an easier future later. Let that one sink in. It's a tough one. But the other thing is we have to play with our natural human instincts of wanting instant gratification. So how do we actually do that? So the way we do that is you give yourself rewards along the way. And honestly, the one that I recommend and the one that I've been doing is I literally have a notebook and I write down a list of things I want to do basically every day or like a few times a week. And I will, if I do it, I check it off for that day and I just write the days. I write the month and I just write all the days. I have the columns for the habit and I track my progress. It's like, you know, you track your food and stuff like that, right? Similar kind of idea, but I just give myself a check. I give myself a check if I've done the habit for the day. And I can look back and see weeks of check marks. And that is giving myself proof. That is giving myself evidence. And that is very rewarding in itself, guys. That is motivation so much for me. I'm looking and seeing that, as James Clear puts it, you're casting votes for the future you that you want to be. So I'm clearly seeing here evidence of, yes, like I am the person that does their workouts. I am the person that sticks to their calories. I am the person that reads. I'm the person that, etc. Right? So I suggest that one. That's one that I use. I know it may seem tedious, but if you take that, honestly, looking back and seeing all those check marks is a reward in itself, and it's an immediate reward that you get, and that plays on our human instincts of having the need for that instant gratification. But at the same time, we're still delaying gratification because we're still doing those good habits that are going to create a better future for us. We're basically at the end of the video. I just want to add a couple of other things. So I kind of was preluding to it before, but basically the thing that you have to kind of grasp, and that I grasped from James Clear, is that a habit is a thing that becomes automated in your brain. So a habit, obviously, and this makes sense, right? It's common sense. I know you guys know this, but one decision is not a habit. It's a repeated decision that you do habitually that your brain pretty much becomes like subconscious to. Honestly, if you sat down and wrote down the things that you did in a day, you'd be surprised how many habits that you have that you're not actually aware of. And the reason that our brain does this is because we have a maximum mental capacity in the moment. So if we can automate things and move it to the subconscious, our brain would love to do that because then it saves us space to actually do thinking, to actually do work. So therefore, our brain wants to create habits, but it will create bad ones and good ones. So that's the important thing to remember. You want to do something enough and frequently enough, and you have to find ways to get it done, guys, because once you can get it done, your body becomes used to it. It becomes easier. Most of the time, people want an outcome. I want to lose 50 pounds. I want to read this book. I want to this, that. So it's all like, I want to accomplish this. I want to accomplish this. I want to accomplish this. But what we should focus on instead is being the type of person that could get that done. So an example of this is, instead of saying I want to lose 50 pounds, say I want to be the type of person that's disciplined with their diet and their fitness. I want to be somebody that is passionate about fitness and that is willing to show up even when things are tough. So you want to become that person. So what I'm trying to say is you want to start with your identity. Instead of saying I want to read more books, say I'm a reader. I want to become a reader. The next thing you do is you follow your system. So this is the habit. So this is the process. When people say trust the process, and once you identify who you want to be, you then figure out how you're going to get there. So once you figure out how you're going to get there, you will get that result. So instead of saying, I'll do two examples. So instead of saying, I want to lose 50 pounds, if you tell yourself, I want to become someone who's disciplined, who shows up and takes their fitness seriously and has fun and is passionate about it, then you will figure out a workout routine and a diet routine. And then even if you're not thinking to lose 50 pounds, guys, I will guarantee you will get in shape. You will get the outcome that you want, even though you don't think about the outcome. Because all you're focused on is the process, and that process will get you the result. You're not focused on the result, but you will get the result. So that's the beauty of it. If you want to become a reader, then you figure out, okay, I'm going to read every evening for 10 minutes minimum. If I can read more, I can read more. Then eventually you will finish your book. But you're not thinking about finishing the book. All you're focused on is, I gotta read 10 minutes every night after I brush my teeth or before I brush my teeth, whatever habit you kind of create. And guess what, guys? You will get the book done, and then you can get other books done. And now you've changed your identity, which is key, because you really want to make this long-term to where you can shift your habits into into more sustainable things. So you don't want to just lose 50 pounds and then just rebound, right? You want to be somebody that can lose the 50 pounds, keep it off, and continue to get healthier and healthier. Which is the last thing I want to say is it's very important to self-reflect, guys. It's so easy to let things become a habit and to make small mistakes and let things slide. Then you're almost like getting by with what's just good enough. And even though it's still a good habit, you might create little bad habits, but the overall habit is good. You're almost like taking shortcuts, right? But if you self-reflect, guys, you can always figure out ways to get better. You can always identify those areas that need a little bit of tweaking. And instead of changing the whole habit, you can fine-tune the habit. So you already have the good habit, but you developed a few little wonky areas in between. You can fix those out and fine-tune them. And the other thing is you want to progressively push yourself over time and try and get better. So that's how you, instead of having a good habit and going up and then slowly having a decline, you can continue to go up. Even if it's very small increments, you continue to go up. And that is because you're continually trying to push yourself and get better. Guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video. This is what I've learned from Atomic Habits by James Clear. Highly recommend that you check out this book. Thank you so much for watching. I know you guys are on a great self-improvement journey. I want to encourage you to keep going. All it takes is what you're doing, continue to learn, continue to take action. And it's just time, guys. It's time that will take you to who you want to be. Once you're doing the good stuff that you need to do, just give yourself time. And that also plays into the idea of the book. An atom is a very small thing, but it makes up our entire world. So from the small, insignificant atom, looking at it under a microscope, I don't even know if you can see it under a microscope. If you eat healthy one day, if you hit cardio one day, you won't notice anything, right? You won't notice any change. It's only after doing that for months and years that you actually see a big difference. And that is why our habits can be a little bit discouraging, and that's why people can start a good habit and then fall off. It's because the change seems so insignificant, but really, guys, this is like a landslide. It really does add up. It's a cumulative thing. It takes weeks, months, and years to actually see an effect, but I encourage you to do it. I'm doing this myself. There's things that I want to get better at, so I'm just letting these habits stack up, and before you know it, these little atoms create everything that we see in our world. So if that doesn't motivate you, I don't know what will, but I hope that you at least will give this a try and watch yourself improve and then let it snowball from there. So if you guys benefited from this, feel free to share it with a friend that also needs to benefit from this kind of information. And let me know in the comment section which ones stood out to you, which laws and which things you're willing to try. And if you've been trying it, and let me know. Come back, feel free if you want to, and let me know if some of the stuff has worked for you, and I really hope it does. So that's it for me. My name's Kenny. Support the channel if you feel like you want to, and I hope to see you guys in another video. Take care.